Honeymoon Studio. Powered by People.
Hello, Nick.
Hello, Rob.
And now?
And now?
What's happening?
I just started recording and my device, I've never actually looked at it carefully when it starts recording, and it said it's currently in stamina mode.
I feel like I'm currently in stamina mode.
Yeah,
I think that perfectly
what
describes where we're at right now.
Yeah.
What's on your mind?
I'll tell you, there's a few things on my mind. Firstly, my uncles who were prisoners of war in Czechoslovakia and Poland, and they were with my grandfather, who was born in the year of the Spanish flu. Wilfred Billy Rom. And my dad's twin brother, they were together in the prisoner of war camps for 3 years, Rob.
That's a long time.
And I never got to ask them properly about that experience, That's something I've been regretting. What's been on your mind?
I'm sick of the world. I'm not sick of the world. I'm just not interested in what's going on in the world right now. I'm going a little bit insular because it's still just so much and so overwhelming. And I'm kind of focusing more on what I find fascinating and interesting is what's happening to comedy in this space and what's happening to my comedy and how we are navigating this new space as comedians and how it's affecting our material, our delivery, and all of those things. I'm finding it quite fascinating and exciting.
Now, you, of course, performed your first ticketed live show. Was it your first ticketed live show?
No, we did a Corner and Twaki one last week.
That's correct. This was your
Wednesday.
first flying solo.
Yes, show, ticketed online.
How was it?
It was great. I'm really happy with it. It went well. I felt like the delivery was pretty solid. I still was pretty nervous, and it's trying to tie all these concepts together. So I'm not 100% on top of it in terms of being in control of it, and then in terms of delivering it the way I want to. But it's online, so you can cheat it a little bit. I've got my cheat sheet next to me. And of course, it's navigating the whole audience not being there thing. But I feel like I found fascinating insights into that, which have helped me and that I'm enjoying exploring. And so I think those insights have helped certainly in that show. And the audience's response was great. I got a
Rob,
really good response.
I'm so pleased to hear that. But more importantly, help me.
Must I help you?
Help me.
So this is what I think it is. This is what I think it is. I think it's there's a fundamental yet subtle shift in rhythm and tone that needs to happen. Obviously, the rhythm, comedy is all about rhythm, and the musicality of a stand-up comedian's performance depends so much on laughter. It's a reciprocal rhythm between yourself and the audience. It's not just you.
Can I just interject at this point for the dear listener? Dear listener, you may detect a subtle shift in direction if you have been listening to our podcasts religiously. Who is that? Is there a person?
You might be hearing my daughter in the background, who's having the last remnants of the caramelized honey pear pudding that I made for them, but am not eating because I'm sitting here doing a podcast with you for no money.
Yeah, you're a fine man. You're actually what my people would call a mensch. Are you familiar with the term mensch?
I am. I've heard it said.
So the shift in direction is firstly Rob making pairs, but secondly, we decided that we are not journalists. We are not political and scientific and medical commentators. at the moment or at any moment. Perhaps we're not bad political commentators if you're into political satire, but we've decided to, as Rob said earlier, turn inwards and focus on our craft. Is that, would you say, accurate?
I think it's a fair appraisal of the behind-the-scenes change of tone and direction, and certainly in the podcast that you and I have discussed. However, I would disagree with you, Nick, in by saying that I think we will still focus on social commentary in as much as it interests us as individuals and as comedy writers. I felt like we took it upon ourselves as we put the onus. I'm going to use that word, Nick. Onus. We put the onus on ourselves to really deliver in the social political commentary arena. And like the truth is, as I said to you right now, I actually don't care anymore. I don't care what's going on in the world right now. Right now, this week, that's what's fascinating me. That's what's interesting me, and that's what I want to talk about. I don't want to talk about Donald Trump and the mad shit he said this week. I don't want to talk about surfers being arrested or trying to evade the police poorly. I just want to talk about comedy. But next week, maybe I want to talk about something deeper. And I encourage you to talk about whatever the fuck you want to talk about, Nick. In fact, I would appreciate it if you...
Yeah, and I get that, even though you're not looking at me on this Zoom video call that we're having, you're looking at the image of me, and so I find it difficult when we're not making direct eye contact to take that.
I should be looking at the camera, hey?
No, but
it's fine. This is Zoom etiquette. This is important stuff that we are all trying to navigate on the daily at the moment.
Because you're in that live show. And you're having to stare at this tiny little hole on top of your iPad or whatever it is you're using.
Yeah. So when I'm now looking at the camera.
See, now I feel like you're looking at me.
Now I'm making contact
deeply into my soul.
Now we're being intimate. You see, that's very interesting. To me, it feels a lot colder because I'm just looking at the hole, and I can see you in the periphery of my vision, and that's my soul wants to pull towards your soul, and in the action of pulling towards your actual visage, I pull away from your eyes, and we lose actual contact.
Yep. And that's where the term to pull focus, in fact, comes from.
That's Zoom
call in 1522.
Yeah, that's true. That's factual.
So you were saying about rhythm and this different kind of rhythm.
Okay,
yes.
So let's go back to rhythm. Comedy is intrinsically rhythmical. There's a musicality to comedy. Like that's why jokes always have a certain rhythm. That's why you have the tap da 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 tap tap. You know, it's a classic kind of joke format, and audiences respond to that. And in fact, you can get an audience to laugh to very unfunny jokes if you just play the rhythm really, really well, because they intuitively recognize the rhythm of a joke, and the beat will tell them to laugh rather than the joke sometimes. But now, without the audience in the room and with that laughter to actually provide that beat within the musical structure of the comedy rhythm, it changes the dynamic incredibly, especially when you're performing live. And I know you felt this in the beginning stages of this lockdown. When we would perform, we would do what we always do. If we're performing live, we will build up and land on our punchline. You know, set up punchline, and that would be and then there'd be this pause where there would normally be a reciprocal beat. Now there was just a nothing, and what it does is it makes you feel like my joke isn't working because I'm not getting any laughs, and the audience might be laughing at home, but then they see you doing this weird pause, waiting, and then it disconnects them from what's going on because they see the strings a little bit more.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Now they're aware of that rhythm. Whereas before, when they were just laughing and I don't know, there's something weird that happens there. What I'm saying is, if you change your tone, to get to my second point, tone, if you change your tone to a much more conversational tone, number one, and you drive through your punchlines or you throw away your punchlines and you land on your segue, So you are pushing onto your theme. You throw away your joke. You trust that it's funny and that whoever's out there watching will hopefully find it funny. But you land on solid ground with what are you talking about, and that is why I think right now, if you're delivering a full show online, it's so important to understand what you are talking about. Where are you in this joke? What is the point of what you're saying? I mean, I don't think it's essential, but I think it helps. I think it's a very valuable tool for you as the performer to go, okay, well, this is the argument I'm putting over for the next. It feels more like a monologue and a speech rather than a comedy performance where you're desirable of that return beat. Does it make sense? Do you think that makes sense?
That makes a lot of sense, Rob. But it is, of course, slightly counterintuitive for the person performing.
Yes.
And so you kind of have to get used to it. It's a bit like watching Mike Proctor bowl in the 1970s, which I never got to do, but I have seen it on YouTube. And he bowls off the wrong foot. He bowls off the wrong foot, which is quite disconcerting for you as the viewer, but perhaps he got used to it, and that's what we have to do.
Exactly.
We have to bowl off the wrong foot.
We have to bowl off the wrong foot and just do it enough times that it feels normal. What's going to be tricky, I guess, is then recalibrating when you go live and not drive through your punchlines or throw them away as much. And remember to go, okay, now we're doing this reciprocal rhythm, not so much just the single rhythm.
You know what that conjures up for me is, what do you think that very first live performance, will you even be thinking of that? What will, in however long it is, you may not even be able to speak words as you stand in front of that first audience. How do you think you'll feel?
Oh, the rush of emotions, Nicholas. The rush, the giddy rush of emotions I think we will all experience in that moment. I think we will be so excited and so like the adrenaline will be pumping out of excitement and joy to be having that real time, real life, same sweat and spit in a room, the laughter rolling off the walls, that tumultuous comedic sea of joy. However, I think we will also be way more nervous than we have been for a very, very long time because it will have been so. I mean, you know what it's like you don't gig for 2 weeks, a week even, and you feel rusty. It feels that first gig back is like tricky. So we're going to be coming back after who knows how long, and we will have retrained ourselves rhythmically and tonally in that time. So it'll be weird. It'll be super weird.
I just remembered what I wanted to share with you just from this week in terms of performing online.
Yeah.
Well, I want to come back to what I'm doing on Saturday, which is a sort of best of compilation of a compendium of stuff, which makes it harder to do what you're describing in terms of a through line and a theme.
Exactly.
And, segues that make sense. So I'm a little bit concerned about doing that, and obviously I need to go and kind of make sense of it. But I wanted to mention some weird things that are happening. So I got invited to perform at a dinner party, which I haven't done since many years ago, when I performed for 6 people once and 8 people and then 25 people on cocaine once. But those are all different past-based.
Were those different dinner parties or one dinner party that went through a lot of different stages?
No, they were different dinner parties in the same house with the same host, but different. He had his wife there the 1 week and then his girlfriend the next.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so the wife was in her 50s. The first dinner party, everyone was in their 50s and they were all 50s somethings. And then the next week, everyone was in the early 20s, coked up in and out of the bathroom. It's quite bizarre. But of course, now we're experiencing bizarre in what we're doing now. I'm at a Zoom. I come into a Zoom dinner party. I look at the gallery. There's only 6 little pictures that I can see, videos. 6 couples. And you think, this guy has hired me to perform at his Zoom quiz night, actually. I think it was a quiz night.
Okay.
What am I going to do? I've prepared some jokes, but it's kind of weird to go straight into a set. So you have to find a way to then interact with people, unmute them, get them to unmute themselves. Then you start picking on the couple that look like there's a 30-year age gap. And I'm like, that's amazing. My parents had a 32-year age gap. How did you guys meet? And she's like, this is my dad. You know.
So you're working the room, basically.
You're working the room.
You're working the rooms.
And so then you get a webinar situation where you can't see the audience at all. Today I did something else where there were panelists, which helped because then there were 6 people that I could tell, hey, you guys unmute yourselves. I need to hear some laughs, okay?
Yeah.
I am starving here. Other people are, okay, perhaps experiencing starvation of a more important kind, but we are starved for laughs. We want to just at least hear something.
But that's also the other interesting thing. So the platform I'm using, you can't hear the laughs, that webinar platform,
Yes.
but which you are also using on Saturday. But then for these other Zoom platforms, we can hear the laugh. So that's another thing. Is like now I'm doing the same material in a corporate kind of environment, and there I can unmute and get the laugh. So then again, you like have to recalibrate yourself rhythmically.
Yeah.
The ground is moving beneath our feet all the time.
Did you have anyone watch? Did you have your wife watch your show, or do you, like me, have trepidation about that?
While you mean like in the room while you are performing, or on another device?
In the room. In the room.
Well, my house is so small that it's unavoidable. Last night, because it's just too much in this little house while my daughter's trying to sleep, I went down to our flat where my mother is staying, and I performed the whole show. My mother was next to me to my left in like her nightie in her bed, like curled up in her under her blankie, watching me from the side perform to a computer. It's bizarre.
She must have loved that.
Loved it. I even brought her in at one point. Mom, is that true?
Absolutely true.
And did you notice how after the World Cup, nothing could go wrong? We were so in this kind of dizzied state of euphoria after the World Cup. We were so desperate for that good news that nothing could go wrong. Everything after that, a 2-week period after the World Cup was just good news. Even like stuff that would normally irritate us wasn't irritating. Load shedding wasn't irritating anymore for those 2 weeks. It was now an opportunity to get romantic, to practice our night vision. It was an opportunity. We had so many good things happening in that 2-week period. Shawn Majosi broke into the US market with John Cena. We had our first Isikoza Miss Universe. Incredible. We even had the KFC proposal. Do you guys remember that? The KFC proposal. What a beautiful moment in South African history. And it was all because of this euphoria that was happening after the World Cup. For those of you who don't know Peter Louis, he's from Benoni. He probably has no idea what I'm talking about. It happened on the internet, Peter. Okay, if you don't know what the internet is, I don't know how you got here, but you are on it right now. So what happened is there was this guy who proposed to his girlfriend in a KFC, and they took a video of it and they posted it on the internet. And then some asshole went on Twitter and said disparaging things about this guy and his love in the KFC. And South African Twitter was like, not today, Satan, not today. How dare you? How very dare you be disparaging about this man and how he chooses to express his love? You don't know him. You don't know this man. You don't know why he's in the KFC. Maybe he went in there to make a streetwise too. You do not know. Okay, and then South African celebrities got involved, guys. People were like, I will MC your wedding. People were like, I'll DJ your wedding. But I'll pay for the catering. And then corporate South Africa woke up and they scrambled to out-empathize each other as they threw cash at this couple. People started to donate livestock to be slaughtered at the wedding. Like, so much sheep and cattle on the timeline, guys. It was too much. These people couldn't kill all of them. They eventually had to start selling the sheep and cattle back to KFC and the McDonald's across the road at a profit. That was incredible. This was an incredible moment in South African history, this outpouring of generosity, this beautiful outpouring of generosity and care for this couple. And the point that I am trying to make here tonight to you beautiful people is that none of that would have happened. None of that outpouring of generosity would have happened had that first person not been an asshole. And think about it. That asshole was just saying what we were all thinking anyway. Who the fuck proposes in a KFC? It's a bad life choice. Sure, we know you're going in for a streetwise too, but you're going to come out with a zinger combo. That's what happens at the KFC and in life, okay? So the point I'm trying to make here, guys, is that we need assholes. We need them. Without assholes, we don't know if we are the asshole or not, right? So what I want us to do right now, in this moment, is I want us to take a moment to acknowledge the assholes in our life. Okay, some of you have spent your entire lockdown with that asshole. Many of you are sitting right now next to that asshole watching this. So what I want you to do right now is let's acknowledge those assholes. I want you to hold that asshole's face in your mind, not actually their face. I want you to visualize their face and hold that asshole's face, not their face, not the. Their face may look like an asshole. I don't know. That's how, but you just, whatever it is, just hold that asshole's face in your mind. And I want you to repeat after me now, okay? Say this. Say, you are my asshole. Say that. You are my asshole. Very good. Now say, thank you for being my asshole. Everybody needs one. Thank you for being mine.
We had to break quarantine because the night before my online show, my mom was involved in an armed robbery. She wasn't the robber? No.
Well, I wouldn't put it past your mom. That is so hectic. She is now... Okay, I don't want to appear as if I'm being very glib about this information. I, of course, do know this information. Yes, and I know that she is okay. So just for the listeners, I am not a cold-hearted monster who is not shocked by this event. I was terribly shocked by it.
Can I say something even more shocking?
You may.
Well, let's be honest, like comedians' brains sometimes think of things that... I don't know, we probably shouldn't. But part of me thought, did she actually fake this whole thing so she could move in with her grandchildren?
At which point did you think that?
Not for a few days, until after she was staying with us.
When you realized, wow, she's really comfortable.
Yeah. It's a terrible thing to say, Mom. Sorry.
Is she sitting there with you now?
She's not. The grandparents, grandmothers in particular, have been known to do some various nefarious things to get hugs from their grandchildren. But it was a very traumatic experience for her and for us, and thankfully she's okay. She came to stay with us that night. Well, it ended up being 3:00 in the morning, after we'd done with the police and whatever. And then the following night was my first online show, and she said, can I watch you? And I was a nervous wreck, and I actually said, I think not.
I think we can be proud of what our country's done and proud of what our president has achieved. In 7 weeks, 64 deaths from coronavirus. At 8 weeks, the United States had 40,000. And for once, it's one of the few times really where Africa can be glad that we're not keeping up with the first world. People are saying, what's your one skill, Nick? What's your one skill that you've taken away from this lockdown, that you've developed, that you've discovered? And I can tell you, I actually have more than one. Hopscotch. I had to learn it for my daughter's homeschooling phys ed activity, and now I'm actually destroying all the other kids in the playground. They're useless. I just don't like saying the word hopscotch because it reminds me that we are out of hops and scotch. So I just call it jumping squares. Speaking of homeschool, it's actually going very well. I'm doing very well at the homeschool. I'm actually crushing Ben's homework. I'm pretty sure that at this rate, my standard 2 maths average is going to go up from like a D to a B. Standard 2, where was I? I was at Waldorf in standard 2. We were doing maths lit, which was story sums, but Waldorf style, like if one free spirit meets another free spirit, how much organic kale would they have to plant outside their mountain retreat clubhouse while simultaneously rubbing their corduroy pants together to produce sufficient kinetic energy to heat all of the lentils in Komaki, Noordhoek and Scarborough combined. I do find sometimes like homeschool, I'm running between 3 different children. I'm the IT support, I'm teaching stuff, I'm doing hopscotch, I don't know what else I'm doing, Play-Doh, washing Sophie's dishes. I sometimes just dissociate for a while. I just kind of check out and stare into space until someone shouts at me or whacks me over the head with a bunny. Sometimes I just walk around and it's too much. And then Adam actually yesterday said to me, Dad, why are you talking to yourself? And I said, I'm not talking to well, I am, but I'm in a PTA meeting, okay? My daughter Sophie has taken to moving her potty into the lounge and pooing in the lounge, right? And I think that's really symbolic of where I've got to with this lockdown, that I'm just allowing my daughter to poo in the lounge just so I get to play on my phone. I mean, who cares? It's not like we're expecting guests.
But then halfway through, she put her head through the door and I said, come in. And then she never came in. And I have some regret about that, Rob.
I wish I knew what to say to you to make you feel better.
Sometimes you don't have to say anything to make people feel better. You just have to be there with them in the moment.
I'm here with you. I'm here with you, man. I wanted to say that you're a bad son. You are actually just a bad son, and I would never have done that to my mother. My mother is always welcome, no matter what.
I hope she doesn't listen to this. She's gonna love you more. She's gonna love you more.
You know what?
Than me.
I say I would never do that to my mother, but I would also never do it to your mother, because your mother is amazing and does not deserve to be treated in such an offhand manner.
Can I also say that, and this is part of the comedic process, or I don't know, whatever you want to call it, that whole experience, traumatic things happen to us, and the comedian knows at the time of the event, no matter how traumatic it is, we will think to ourselves on occasion, this is going to be material at some point in time. And there were various things that happened on that night that I'm pretty sure will end up being material. But there was almost a microcosm for this whole time we're going through, which you kind of know that everyone's going to have an hour out of this, but right now we can't quite
figure out what that hour is.
Yeah, but I think I didn't see the show, but I imagine you were already tacking on to some already developed ideas, but then applying it to now.
Yes. I mean, that's another thing that I find super interesting about it, because I can't just write a full new hour right now and deliver that. That's impossible. But what I find super interesting is repurposing existing material into this kind of situation. And I think we actually spoke about this, like first kernels of ideas in the first 1 or 2 episodes of this podcast. So just like being able to look at something differently and going, I've got so much stuff that actually speaks to what I'm going through now in just within a different kind of example. And one of those things is about how we process trauma. as people, and particularly as South Africans, and how in this situation in particular, with the whole lockdown, everyone's so desperate to kind of fix the situation that no one's actually stopping to acknowledge how fucked the situation is, and to acknowledge and grieve, and just stop for a second. So I had a whole bunch of material on the drought as an example of like how we don't process our trauma, which just works really, really well. I had a whole newer piece of material on the Rugby World Cup. Because we don't process our material, we look to these in the bigger scheme of things, meaningless events to give our lives purpose and meaning, just to kind of distract from the trauma we are currently experiencing. And that's why the World Cup win was so amazing. So I got a whole bit of material on that I've been playing with, and all of a sudden it fits really well into this. And then I pull back stuff about the drought and how we don't acknowledge trauma and that, and how to this day Cape Townians, even though they are traumatized, we've normalized it. We've normalized the drought. But if you speak to a Cape Townian, you know that a Cape Townian can hear a leaking pipe from 3 kilometers away underground. It's like that kind of leftover trauma, and those are like gags that really work now in terms of what we're experiencing. And then also this notion at the moment that you have to write a novel during lockdown, or learn how to build a grand piano with your bare hands using only scraps of material from your garage, or come away with like 6 new languages, or all of that stuff. And it's like I hate that notion, and we've spoken about it a lot on this podcast. And then I realized I've got all this material about motivational speakers. We've got this proliferation of motivational speakers in this country, the kind of people who feel compelled to paddle to Madagascar and back in a boat made out of wet wipes, which is a tea strainer for it all. And I remember that that material was born out of me going to an AGM in Robertson, a farmers AGM, a group of farmers, and they had this guy who'd gone on an adventure holiday for 2.5 years, and he came back, and now he's inspiring them with this Dwys's adventure holiday. And these are farmers, people who they're dealing with the toughest conditions every single day. They don't need this arsehole who's been on a 2.5 year adventure holiday to try and inspire them. And it made me think at the time about it, who is it? Who are the actual heroes? Who are the really inspiring people keeping the country together? And now, in the current zeitgeist, you realize, it's not the motivational speakers. We know that. The motivational speakers are currently running around and around and around their house in a desperate attempt to set a new Guinness World Record for being the biggest tourist to run the furthest distance without actually getting anywhere. The essential workers are the real heroes. They're the real people keeping the country together. The petrol pump attendant, the checkers lady, the teller at the checkers, the taxi driver, the gachi spraying people's hands with sanitizer before they get into the taxi and head off to their essential service. All that stuff, and that's stuff we've been talking about that's now slowly developed into, I see that as some material, and it fits into existing material, and I really love that. I find that fascinating. Who's our guest today?
Our guest is he's a beautiful human being, and
he's a man.
Very
he's a beautiful man,
fine comedian, and
excellent.
Also man who makes women and some men swoon with the way he plays a guitar and sings,
and the voice. The sultry voice. Suave. I think suave is a good word to use to describe him.
Suave, sophisticated,
sexually
active,
omnivorous. Ladies and gentlemen, Tats Nkonzo.
Hey.
I don't know what sexually omnivorous means, but I think it's definitely you.
Yeah, I do like Bush.
How you doing, Tats?
Bro, what is this? Because I don't know how to pitch myself to whoever this audience of whatever this is.
Oh, in terms of this podcast?
Yes.
We don't know. We don't know.
You don't have to pitch anything.
It's a conversation that we're having. This podcast was born basically out of the telephone conversations Nick and I were having right at the beginning, just as a kind of emotional crutch to talk through how we were feeling and what we were experiencing and what's going on.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and now I suppose tonight the conversation has been more centered around comedy and what's happening to comedy and how we're doing it at the moment. And so I guess I'd love to hear from you, number one, how you, like, just your general emotional vibe and journey through this thing up until this point, and then also your experience doing comedy online and in this new space.
Having the kids kind of made me have to find myself quicker, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I remember when we decided that they're going to stay with me for the lockdown, because my ex-wife, works in public health.
Oh, wow.
So she's in the front line. And I remember when they were over, it took about 2 days before I realized, oh, this can't continue like this. There's got to be some sort of... there's got to be a way of that we live together here. So I remember like having to like think, okay, fine, so this is what it is now. How am I going to keep sane? I think that's the biggest thing that I've been trying to, even before lockdown, but my sanity, I think I valued more than, to be quite honest with you, more than everything else.
Yeah. So you've been single parenting with 2 kids through this whole thing.
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw the kids on your timeline, but for some reason I didn't like. I was like, oh, well, obviously that's hectic.
Oh, you saw us. You saw 30 minutes max of our lockdown edited.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. I mean, that's in terms of mental health and like sanity. That is, I suppose, the main conversation where Nik and I have been starting from as well through this.
Right.
Is handling your anxiety through it and all of that stuff. It's tricky. So what has helped you with that?
So
are you just faking it in front of the kids?
No, not at all. I tell my kids, they know that daddy has to go for walks. Like, I've got a very big garden where I live. And, like, if you ask them, if I go, why does daddy have to go out for a walk? Because I've told them. They go, because daddy's brain is sick. That's the equivalent of daddy's not okay, but gets help.
Yeah.
So I was going to therapy before the lockdown, which was great. And I've just kind of continued, I think, the work. I find it's nice because it's almost like everything that we've known. Like, you know when we enter those realms of like mental wellness and presence, and now,
the work. I call it the work, and you said the work. It's, for me, that's the thing I keep saying as well. Yeah, it's all that self-care stuff, and it is.
Yeah,
perfect.
It's
like the work.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
do the work.
So what this lockdown has kind of made me realize is that it's like, oh yeah, all those things that you knew and believed and exercised like every now and then because you had the luxury to do it when you felt like it. The lockdown kind of made me go, okay, is this thing for real? Is this stuff for real? Let's put it to work.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, for me, it has worked. Like I am well, and I'm not outside of what's happening, but I am together.
That's great.
I've been very quietly devoted to not letting anything fuck up where I'm at. So I go for a few walks during the day. It was a lot more walks when the kids moved in. March 15. Yeah. I go for fewer walks now. And we found our rhythm, me and the boys. It's crazy. Like I'm finding out, I was saying to Skumba the other day, it's crazy how I don't think in all our lives we would have scheduled this much time with our kids.
No.
Like, and that was such a wild thought for me where I'm like, I don't think in all my life, I don't see myself scheduling this much time with my children. Like it was just never gonna happen.
Yeah.
I'm not a prophet, but I'm just like, it was never gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was always going to be writing. I was always going to be working. There was always going to be another thing I wanted to start, another idea I wanted to write. And I'd be doing all of that with kids, as in I have kids. But so I'm like finding out, never mind me, actually, they finding out so much about me.
Yeah. That's amazing.
And the kind of person I am. And I'm enjoying that. And I think how that, in terms of work, how that translated is, so I think it was, I can't remember when, the first 21 days, when we had 21 days, just 3 weeks originally, hey?
Yeah.
I got a brief to post content for every day of the 21 days. And I remember when I got that brief, it was like a lifeline that I was like, okay, cool. So this is gonna take off some of that anxiety of money.
Yeah.
And I remember even in that 21 days, practicing this stuff really helped. And I was saying to Mojak the other day, it's so like the discipline of, because like everyone's trying to find solutions of like what to do, how to do it, where to do it,
Yeah.
which skill or thing they're gonna do. And for a while I was watching everyone like, okay, also trying to find something that I can watch and go, that looks like something I could do, let me get on that. And I didn't find anything.
Yeah.
So it's so weird in that 21 days. Like if you go to my timeline and you watch the clips I've been posting from day one, they so like, the creativity of them is so random.
Yeah.
And it was such an interesting thing to just go, okay, creatively, like, because what I'm learning now is that like creativity is something I have, and stand-up was and is kind of the place where I exercise that creativity.
Yes.
But creativity, I'm learning, is like, and starting to just believe, is something I have. So like today, my most recent post, anyways, all of them, it's like, so finding that out kind of helped me relax, in that I go, I can and will do something.
Yes.
Creatively. And also staying in the problem one more day will lead me to the solution of what I need to do. So what I mean by that is, there's like, as people are trying to find out what they want to do, they don't know, but they're in the problem and they're looking, right? But they're in it. And then what happens is, sometimes when you get too anxious, or you get too impatient, or you get too fearful, you open your eyes and then you do stuff, or opportunities come and you take them, that take you out of that problem solving. So for 3 days you'll have a thing that you're doing, and you're just kind of using what you already have from the old world. You're using that skill and you're using that thing and you're doing that brief, and then in that 3 days you come back and then it's like, oh, where was I? Oh shit, this thing is still
Same problem.
And then it's kind of like, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
So what I mean by staying in the problem is, I've also just realized that I'm gonna find the thing, but if I stay in the thing.
How do you mean? Like you staying in?
Literally, I mean, I wake up and I don't have a job,
Yeah.
but I am creative.
Yeah.
So I keep creating to satisfy that gene, and also because it's twofold. Like it's the for lack of a better word. No, let me try to find a better word.
Say, what is the word you want to use?
Stay in
Say
the
it.
problem, Tats. Stay in the problem.
Stay in the problem.
But you know what I'm realizing? The more I'm getting more, I'm getting more. So I need to.
Are you becoming a hippie?
As I grow in that, I also need to grow the vocab so that I can articulate it to people.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? So I don't want to, as much as I'm enjoying and I'm being the way I'm being and I'm experiencing what I'm experiencing, I do want to be able to pass it.
Yeah.
So by staying in the problem, I mean, let me speak to the creatives, where it's like people are online, right? And creating things online. And to an extent, and we don't know how much that extent's going to be, the money is going to be online. I.e., there's going to be a company that goes, shit, we need to respond now because actually we have to do something online. And sooner or later, it's going to be more companies or more opportunities. And it's just a matter of when those companies and opportunities come and go for the first time in their freaking existence, go, shit, okay, who's doing what? They must find you. And they must find you being at the peak of your creativity, just like when it wasn't COVID.
So are you saying that the staying in the problem is the act of staying creative in this context without knowing what the hell you're actually doing? It's just to keep exercising your creativity and see how that manifests, rather than being distracted by those little old remnants of like lifelines to the old world,
right?
The old way, like whatever brief might come in that you can then kind of, oh, that's
right,
something I can do that'll keep me busy.
Yes.
But it distracts you from actually really truly exploring your creativity in this space where you don't know what's going on.
To creativity, I want to add relevance to the times.
Okay.
So it's not just I'm just gonna splatter my creativity.
Don't just splatter.
You know what I mean? It is it's like being the artist, but also being aware of the times you're living in.
Yeah.
At some point, like even when your show yesterday.
Yeah.
Which was great, by the way. I didn't know it was going to be that.
Oh, thank you. What did you think it was going to be?
I was just supporting you. So by the time I was like, oh, this is what he's doing, right? I go, my first thing was, this is a relevant show. This is relevant content.
Yes.
Right? It's relevant. It's relevant, bro. So it's going to...
And it resonates. Yes,
and
that's exactly what we were talking about before you came on the line is for that particular show is finding... Because to write a whole new show right now is kind of impractical. But finding old material that can be repurposed within this particular context that truly does resonate is very helpful for me as a artist trying to put stuff out. And what in terms of what you're saying about staying in the problem, that's something that's I suppose was a core message behind the show that I'm trying to do, is the idea that people are trying to fix the problem. They're so desperate to fix the problem that they're not even taking a moment to acknowledge, oh, there's a huge fucking problem here and I don't know what I'm doing and everything's broken and oh my God, I just want to let go and daddy needs to take a walk now. Daddy needs to take a walk.
Again.
So I get that. That's actually really rad. I totally resonate with what you're saying. So now I want to ask you something with that in mind. In terms of your writing right now, like what you have to say thematically, your theme is so important in terms of your delivery because when you're delivering online like this, you kind of throw away your punchlines, you land on your segue, and the theme becomes the raft that you hold on to as the performer.
Say that again. That feels like a masterclass thing. Say that whole thing again.
The theme becomes the raft on which you hold on to as your performer. You drive through your punchline, or you throw away your punchline and you land on your segue.
On your segue.
Exactly. not the one of those like little bike thingies, but the links between jokes, which is where your theme should be, really.
Yeah.
What does Nik do, putting a best of show together, and which is probably what I'll be doing for my next show as well?
Mm-hmm.
How do you do that? Is it about? This is my feeling. Is take what I did with this show and to take some of your best material and just take it out of the context of which you originally wrote it and just look at it with a fresh eye and then see how those bits connect together and see if there isn't a connecting theme that resonates with the current zeitgeist that you can stick it onto, and then that's the framework that you're holding on to. That's your raft for that particular show.
Is that's for Nik, eh?
Yeah, because he's doing a best of. I mean, I'm asking you a question, but I think I solved the problem in my question. I think I've solved it. We don't need you anymore, Tats. It's done.
I approve this message.
How does Nik stay relevant? I've not said anything to you, Tats. I want to say this thing because I think the content is critical. What Rob's pointing to is critical. But I also think the context is just as important.
Yeah.
And by the context, I mean actually who we're being as performers. And I think what you pointed to earlier in terms of the work you've been doing, and the work you've been doing prior to lockdown and through this lockdown, I think that is something that's almost intangible for people watching, but they get it. It's there. Intuitively, they can smell it. It's there. Yeah. And I think what's so great about you is that you leave people with the experience of it's okay. It's actually okay. And there's this quality of connection with you that certainly for me, I'm always left with that experience of it's okay. Love is present. We're going to be okay. And that's something rare and beautiful, and I wanted to acknowledge you for that.
That I want to reiterate what Nik has said there, and that totally. I remember that gig we did in Limpopo last year. We did this festival in Sydney, and it was weird. Like the room that we played in was like this massive hall, but it was like not a lot of people, and they were all there was like a chef school. It was late. It was weird.
Oh my gosh!
I went out there and I was like, "Oh, this is a tough room," and I just kind of bulldozed it. I made it work, but it was like it was hard work, and I just kind of went into just do the show mode. And Tats came out in his own sweet ass time, and just stopped everything, and just acknowledged what was happening. This is what's going on. Let's just take a look around and acknowledge what's going on. Let's come together. And you brought everyone together, and you took that energy of that room where I just tried to just do comedy at it. I just did comedy at it. And you came and you just you sat everyone down and you said, it's okay. It's okay. We're going to get through this tonight. And it was truly beautiful.
You know what that, like for all of us, it's just that we do. Okay, well, I may not speak for all of us. I haven't had time to articulate again. This thing, because we can fly in all these different things. Science, spirituality, stand up, humor, whatever it is, and into the study of them and what they are and how to do it and what to do. Right? That's something that we can do, but with I guess to make it tangible for people or make it like something that they enticed to do, there are answers in being in the thing. So when you say I got up and I stopped everything and I made everyone, this is what's happening. As I was doing that, I didn't know what the next beat was going to be, or the next thing, or the next response even from them. But I knew that we were going to be in. And then from there, I had the answers. Do you know what I mean?
You stayed in the problem. I
stayed in the problem. And as long as it took, you were there, is as long as it took for it to happen. And then, as you know, once it's like, okay, this is now the cocoon in which we live, or this is the house that we've now built, we fly. Then it's going to be like, oh, you were quiet for so long, and then boom, you had a thing. It's like, yeah, I was quiet, but I was kind of also working, and I was being, and I was, and that's what I do in stand-up, and I think to an extent now. And what I was going to say is that we have these things that we do in the work of stand-up that when you break them down, they're quite significant life things. It's just in stand-up, it's in these micro, spotlit, razzle-dazzled, seemingly magical things that we do, where it's like, how did he get the attention of this crowd?
Yeah.
Break that down, it's a life tool that you can use. So, yeah.
So I think to wrap things up, because I see our producer fidgeting in his chair. I think that you perhaps have given us a very important distinction in terms of dealing with the time we're in, which is deeply uncertain. Just as getting up on a stage in Sanin at a weird-ass fucking gig is deeply uncertain.
Absolutely.
And sometimes we respond to that uncertainty with force, and sometimes we need to just be present to how things are and how they're not, and be okay with that. And I think you have gifted us with that.
And as a carrot to add to that, guys, I promise you, there are answers in being in without answers. You can't hear them if you're not in. You can't hear what to do if you're not in the thing. There's content, but then there's also like, oh, he left a bit of his heart in that one. Or he actually showed us his whole spirit in that situation. You know, when they go, what was it? Okay, that was nice. Swipe. But
Tats Nkonzo, what a guy.
And I think actually one of our finest comedy exports, ladies and gentlemen, who are maybe not familiar with Tats Nkonzo, go and check him out.
Where do we see him?
In his garden, taking a walk.
Taking a walk. Nick, so when this podcast comes out, it'll be post your show on Saturday, and then but I'm going to speak to you through the week, and we're gonna unpack this repackaging of a best of show within this particular context. I think Tats is onto something, and it's literally given me a few light bulb thoughts, and I think it can work.
Let me see, Rob, if I've internalized your wisdom that you have shared on this episode.
Mine and Tats, eh?
And
not
Tats.
just me.
So Saturday, here's what I'm going to work on is being is the jet fuel. Being is the jet fuel. And I'm going to work on being more like Mike Proctor and less like Peter Pollock, actually. The father of Sean Pollock, who bowled off the right foot. I'm going to bowl off the wrong foot. I'm going to land on the segues.
Yes.
I'm going to think of manufacturing a theme to connect these disjointed bits of comedy from different times of my life in a way that's relevant to the times we're living in, Rob.
Be in the problem.
And finally, I'm going to leave a bit of my heart on this stage. And when I say this stage, I mean this desk.
I can't wait to see it. Your heart on the desk. I love you, man.
Love you, brother.
Let's chat later.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.
My woman have no mercy, have no trouble. Oh, why, oh, in my life, oh, in my life. no mercy. I tell everybody. Ooh. Studio.